The Italian Wine Podcast is the community-driven platform for Italian wine geeks around the world. Support the show by donating at ItalianWinepodcast.com. Donate €5 or more and we'll send you a copy of our latest book, My Italian Grape Geek Journal, absolutely free. To get your free copy of My Italian Grape Geek Journal, click Support Us at ItalianWinepodcast.com or wherever you get your pods. Grazie mille.
Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today it's my great pleasure to introduce my guest, Aldo Fiordelli, who is an Italian wine critic, journalist and writer who contributes to several publications, including the Tuscan edition of Corriere della Sera, as well as Civiltà del Bere, and also Decanter magazine here in the UK. Aldo is also a certified sommelier and has written 4 books about wine, food, and art. So I'm looking forward very much to our conversation. Buongiorno, Aldo. How are you today, and where are you today?
Buongiorno. I'm very fine. I'm in Florence, where I was born. It's my town. But today I'm I live in both in Monza, close to Milan, and in Florence. So I spend my time among the two.
And also some time in London?
Yes, sometimes in London, mostly for Decanter, for Decanter World Wine Awards in spring, and when Decanter organized the panel tastings.
Okay, so you move around a lot, and I'm sure you move around a lot for your work. Tell me about yourself, how you became a wine and food writer and critic. It's something that listeners are always interested to know.
Oh, yes. Well, my family come from a small village between Tuscany, Umbria, Marche, in the heart of the center of Italy, where the food was excellent, but the wine was really very bad. It is a place, Val Tiberina, if you know, is the best place in Italy to grow tobacco, and obviously tobacco loves humid soil, humid grounds, and weather, and so it's the opposite for the wine, and so in my house. I has eaten always very well, but the wine was a kind of food stuff for everyday drinking, or otherwise you have the old, very old bottles, not always stored properly, of Barolo, Brunello, sort of things. So I started with an interest about wine. And my parents had a friend, a producer, a wine producer, who is Fabrizio Bianchi from Castello di Monsanto in Chianti Classico. And when I was young, I found a bottle, an open bottle of the previous dinner, the night before, of Il Poggio 1990. And when I tasted this wine, I have the classic Coupe de Foudre. So I thought, if the wine is this sort of thing, I would know it. And then I started to work as a journalist, so not immediately as a wine critic or a food critic, but I started with the Chronicle, and I worked up to 2013 in a newspaper, following Chronicle, politics, economics, but since the beginning, when there was something about food and wine, the editor asked me to cover it, and so is this is the way I started with wine journalism. But I like to say that I like to be a critic, to work as a critic, but what I prefer is to work as a reporter. So I prefer to how do you say, to share with the readers what I can discover, and what they can find in a restaurant or in a winery, rather than saying simply this is very good, excellent, or not as good as usual.
Okay, I understand that distinction, and I've enjoyed your articles in Decanter as well. I think that's interesting that your Damascene moment that excited you about wine was Il Poggio di Monsanto, a great wine, and I can see how tasting a wine like that after you had grown up drinking, I guess, or in a household where wine was, as you say, a food, something to lubricate the meals. And that would have been the time of the mezzadria, perhaps, or after the mezzadria, when that mentality hadn't yet disappeared, perhaps. Italy is one of the most ancient wine producing countries in the world, with vineyards that have been in virtual cultivation since antiquity. Yet at the same time, it's one of the most innovative and exciting. And your writing is part of that discovery of your own country, of this new world mentality linked to this ancient patrimony of vines. Would you say that's true? It's an exciting time to be writing about Italian wine and about Italian food.
Yes, it's an exciting time. I think that probably in the past it was even more exciting. You mentioned Mezzadria correctly. I think that since the 90s, a lot of small producers, a lot of viticulturists, a lot of small farms which produced just the grape and which sold the wine in bulk. They started at that time. They started to bottle and to produce their own wine. And so that was probably the most exciting time for when writing in Italy, because there was everything to publish, to show to the public, to the readers. Today is different. Today is a more detailed work, but is exciting again, because what is happening now in Italy, I like to define as a postmodern winemaking. A few years ago, I read a book which was called Postmodern Winemaking. It is written by Clark Smith, an American winemaker. And the idea about this wine, around this wine, is today we can rediscover the traditional style of winemaking. And we have a lot of traditional styles in Italy, with the knowledge and with the technology that we have, that we know, in order to make not natural wine, but wines in the as much smoother way as possible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and looking at that within that historical context as well, but with all the knowledge that came about with technology. It's interesting how, in many ways, as you say, there's a return to the past, for example, amphora, but with a different sensibility than simply fermenting wines as they were done, over the centuries. Tuscany is one of your areas of expertise. You live in Florence. What do you think some of the most exciting developments in Tuscany are today within that context that you've just described?
Well, first of all, I think that Chianti Classico is the appellation and the sub-region where there is the most exciting changing about wine, not just because of the Gran Selezione, the new top-end selection of wines, but because of the work, what we call it zonazione, the different, the more detailed work on the villages of Chianti Classico, because Chianti Classico is a quite big wine region. Is almost like Bordeaux, is 80 kilometers long between Florence and Siena, and you have so many different villages with different styles. Today they are producing wine with almost 100% Sangiovese. The style of winemaking is always very close, very classic. So it is easy to distinguish the different villages within the Chianti Classico area, and for me this is very exciting for the wine lovers. All the wine lovers are mad of details about the land and about the differences of the wines. Say that we have something very interesting also in Montalcino. Today there is the next generation of producers in Montalcino, which is coming to manage the wineries. They have traveled a lot since they were young, and so they are more open-minded compared to their parents and their grandparents. I think, for example, that the style of Montalcino is more precise, the extractions are more balanced. So even here we have a lot of energy. It's a classic appellation, but it looks like very young because of the energy and the excitement that there is around.
Yes, that's really interesting, that youthful energy coming from that next generation. But going back to the Chianti Classico, I think you're right to highlight what the consumers will know as the UGAs. Is that right? These communal appellations that have really we're only beginning to see them now on. Is that something that you think will also begin to happen, perhaps in Montalcino, where there's great variety between northern vineyards in the southern, or in other Tuscan wine areas?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think that Montalcino has clearly different areas. The southwest produces wines more approachable. The northeast is more austere when young. The southeast is the most classic ones. So there are macro differences in Montalcino for me, but a lot of the producers own and grow grapes in different areas and then blend it together. So I think they will not have the interest to play like in Chianti Classico with that zonazione. And also Montalcino is smaller compared to Chianti Classico. So it would be that, useful for the appellation. I'm not sure about that. And if I can add something, the MGA in Langhe for Barolo and Barbaresco, it is very interesting. It is a work which today is full of details. MGA is becoming something like the premier cru quality level for Barolo and Barbaresco. But when in the past, when all the producers used to blend the grapes from different vineyards all around Barolo and Barbaresco, this was done due to the different vintages, cool vintages, warm vintages. So, in my view, is something that we are going to lose. Of course, we all love more details, but which is the price for that? Is also a risk that we can have without the ability to blend different MGA.
Well, that's an interesting point, Aldo. We have the individuality of cru, but the more total complexity of a wine that blends grapes from Castiglione Falletto with La Mora, for example, or Serralunga, can give a rounder and more complete wine in a different sense. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're talking about some of the exciting things that are happening in the world of Italian wine, and it is an exciting story. Witness the rise of a wine zone such as Etna, where grapes have been grown since antiquity on the volcano, but it's only in the last 20 years that Etna has jumped to the world's attention as a wine zone of the highest quality. How come something like that can happen?
In my view, this is it's this a sort of postmodern winemaking that we are living today. So Etna was very tough to grow. The vineyards in Etna are very hard to grow. Today we have more knowledge, more skills in order to do that, and mostly what happened in Sicily is that the region was developed a lot in the 90s, but following a kind of commercial trend like oaked Chardonnay, for example. But then the region refines the style of their wine, rediscovered the indigenous grape varieties such as Nerello Mascalese in Etna, or Carricante or Grillo, and today Sicily is not anymore focused only on powerful wines like Nero d'Avola or even the last oaked Chardonnay that there are in the island, but is also focused on very fresh, crisp, mineral white wines close to the sea, and mostly in Etna, elegant and fresh red wines. So, in my view, is both things. So, on one side, the different style that we have today, this kind of postmodern style that we would like to have in the wines, and on the other side, the trend and the demand for wines with elegance and freshness, even from a warm place such as Sicily. Because as we know, Etna is 3,000 meters above sea level, and we have vineyards, the highest vineyards of Europe, up to 1,000, 1,200 meters above sea level. Today, there is also the maturity in some of the most engaged consumers and wine lovers to appreciate wines with a linear character, not just full, rich, and smooth, but also with a linear character, but full of nuances, full of elegance, and full of freshness.
That's interesting too, that as you talk about the postmodern winemaking, there's also a postmodern wine drinker, perhaps, that has matured.
Coming back to America, Vinitaly International Academy, the ultimate Italian wine qualification, will be held in New York City from 4 to 6 March 2024. Have you got what it takes to become the next Italian wine ambassador? Find out at vinitaly.com.
I'm in the UK, and so you're very aware of the consumers here. We've seen more and more native Italian grapes from throughout the country becoming more mainstream in international markets, certainly. I'm thinking of Fiano, Grillo, Falanghina, Pecorino, Ribolla Gialla, Verdicchio, Arnese. There's so many. It's really actually very enjoyable for wine drinkers who love Italian wines to, discover a wine that they didn't know, Trebbiano Spoletino, grapes such as that. Where do you think this is going with, and do you think that they're Italian grape varieties that aren't yet widely known by the public that we will see more and more of? What regions are exciting in that respect?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy about that because for me, not only speaking about the wine, but also speaking about the food, what do we have in Italy is the biodiversity. So we need to share all of our biodiversity in grape varieties as well as in speaking about cheese, vegetables, and dishes, region by region. This could be a risk because more niche grape varieties demand a more engaging consumer. For more engaging consumers, we need to work on the culture of them, on the formations, on the knowledge about single grape varieties, which is not easy. But I think that this is the strength of Italy. I think definitely that Verdicchio is one of the most important grape variety in the last few years in terms of growth, because it's a very important white wine. Is a white wine that you could drink as a red wine almost because of its structure. I think also that Campania could be grown. Here the wineries are often quite small. Campania counts just the 2% of Italian wine production. But there are amazing appellations and wines. I think to the white wines from Amalfi Coast, and obviously I would consider Irpinia. I think that the culture and the success of the indigenous Italian grape varieties could increase the interest for Italian regions, smaller regions or less known regions, such as Irpinia that we mentioned, Etna, and so we can consider Iesi or Matelica as well for Verdicchio, and so on, because the grape variety at the end is anyway just an instrument to express the soil, the land, and the terroir.
Yes, that's a very interesting point. And I really like the way you've linked that to the incredible biodiversity that also comes from the land in terms of food products. So this is a good opportunity to turn to discussing food and wine. Sharing food with wine is incredibly important to Italians throughout Italy, to Italians anywhere, perhaps more so than anywhere else in the world. Why do you think Italian wine is so intimately linked to Italian food and indeed to local and regional foods?
This is a very good question. I would start in this way. Despite I am a sommelier, I do not use to make the matching from a technical point of view. Because in Italy it's very easy to match wine and food if you pick both from the same place. We can do a lot of examples. Chianti Classico with Fiorentina steak, or Cotechino with Lambrusco, an old Barolo with white truffle. It's very nice that you have this coincidence. If you pick the wine and the dish from the same place, the match more or less is always quite good. I can't say why. I think that the importance of the link with food and wine is a matter of a very old culture. Is our culture, because the food culture in the cuisine, the Italian cuisine, was born by the base of the society. Is not as the French one, which come from the monarchy, the diplomacy, and so it's really something linked with the land. But what we can say, I think that for example, we need to approach Italian wines in a different way from what is done, for example, from the American critics, because some of them have a different taste, a different approach. So, for example, in my view, we should not search for the perfect tannin when we taste the wine, because yes, this is a matter of quality, but sometimes we need to look for details in wine, and we have wines with tannins, but we used to match the wines with food. So at the end, the perception of the wine is with the food is different. You need to have structure, you need to have acidity, you need to have tannins, you need to have even quite nervous and tense wines. Not to drink just by the glass out of the meals. So in my view, we should be able to put the palate of Europe at the center of the wine critics, because we have this kind of culture of the wine shared on the table with food. And so we need wines with structure, with character, with details, not wines made to be drunk. Not only wines made by the glass out of the meals, so very smooth and maybe even off dry sort of things.
Yes, I know what you're saying, and I think that's really interesting to be, as a professional critic, to be tasting always with that sensibility of how that wine is going to be enjoyed. You've also written books about food, wine, and art, including a book entirely about risotto alla milanese. What is particular about this dish that's so special that it's a subject of a book?
It seems to be incredible, but I traveled across nearly 50 restaurants and osteria to taste different risotto alla milanese, and there was no one similar to another. What I like of risotto alla milanese is that is a complex dish and full of details, and so is almost always different. But what is also very interesting, and this is why we published the book now, is this time for a town like Milan, where the recipe was born. Because Milan today is, after the Expo, a very international town. Milan was not so international 10 years ago, for example. It was not like Rome, Florence, or Venice, which are used to be open to the rest of the world. And so this recipe is changed a lot under the pressure of this town, more international. And with the more influences. We worked a lot on the history of the recipe. We discovered that probably the recipe was born with yellow sausages, which was typical of Estensi court in the past, so from the Emilia. And we discovered a link between these yellow sausages and the rice, Milanese risotto, which is obviously yellow. But today, this recipe became more and more contemporary. So with the less fat, less is more recipe compared to the past, because it's a very rich dish. Yes, there are a lot of things to share.
Fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. And I can see, just speaking to you about this, how food for you is not just as wine is not a wine to be tasted simply on its own, but within a broader cultural context. So it is with food, where that one dish, risotto alla milanese, has a wealth of history and cultural overtones every time you sit down and sample it. Aldo, we could go on talking about much more. There are many other questions I wanted to discuss with you. I wanted to talk about truffles, but that perhaps we can leave for another time. We've run out of time for this podcast, but it's been really great to meet you here. And I want to thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge and your passion about both Italian wine and food. with our listeners. So thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you too, Mark. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Arrivederci. Ciao.
Grazie. Arrivederci. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe right here or wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at ItalianWinePodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.